As far back as the 1960s, the media has engaged in an ongoing strategy to celebrate the youthful consumer while dismissing and belittling the image of the 50-plus consumer. Perhaps the belief that aging is a disease and not something to celebrate is behind the resistance to changing this strategy. But is that even true? Maybe it's a belief that the 50-plus consumer is not profitable, so why even bother? The reality, however, is that for the past 3 decades, this strategy has proven to not only be unprofitable, but also damaging to the companies who try to justify it. The negative impact of selling aging as a disease is well documented. Equally well documented is the damage inflicted on the brand image and downward spiral of the once high-flying profits of companies who have employed this approach. Later in this series, you will discover staggering statistics for companies who have refused to alter their approach and remain disconnected with an evolving consumer landscape. For episode 3 of The Invisible Customer with All the Money, Joanie Marx will look at where all of this started, the disengagement theory.
Hi, I'm Joanie Marx. I'm a 3-time international best-selling author and the creator of 3 acclaimed online courses for Udemy.com. And I want to welcome you to this 3rd episode of The Invisible Customer with All the Money. This 7-part series is based on nearly 15 years of research into the 50-plus consumer. And some of the material is edited excerpts from the first chapter I wrote for The Expert's Cure, which is a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling book. So let's start with what is the disengagement theory?
In their 1961 book, Growing Old, social scientists Elaine Cumming and William Henry proposed their disengagement theory, which is based on the premise that aging is an inevitable mutual withdrawal or disengagement, resulting in decreased interaction between the aging person and others in the social system that he or she belongs to. This theory is based on the idea that the older generation of a society must accept their demise and go quietly into the night of their retirement. This premise further believes that this level of disengagement now places the spotlight on the youth, leaving them to shape and guide the present and future course of society. The foundation for the disengagement theory, therefore, is an assumed mutual agreement between the aging population and the youth in which they are severing ties. This makes it inevitable that you will see a decrease in positive storylines of 50-plus consumers in the media. But how true is this for the modern age?
When the media and advertising partners bought into the disengagement theory, the world was a very different place. But how is the media and advertising industries affected now? The disengagement theory ignited a new field of research in social science, particularly with a focus on aging. Many of the younger decision makers in the media today have probably not heard of this theory, but for the past 60 years, it has had an enormous influence on how brands ignore the 50-plus consumer while focusing on younger generations. And it remains just as prominent today as it did in years past. Is this theory even still relevant today? And if so, what does it have to do with the invisible customer with all the money? Today's 50-plus consumers, which also includes millions of Generation X, are nothing like the parents and grandparents who were the focal point of the disengagement theory. Today's 50-plus consumer does not act, live, or spend money like the social and consumer myths suggest they would for people of their age. And this is not a new phenomenon. So why are so few ad dollars and focus placed on them? So I'd like to ask a question now. Why is so much ad money and time spent being focused only on the youth, when the truth of it is the economy, the money that hums and makes this economy work, is financed by the invisible customer with all the money?
For decades, the media and their advertising partners have been convinced that investing billions of dollars and vast human resources into attracting younger consumers while ignoring the invisible customer with all the money is a profitable and reasonable long-term strategy. The success of this strategy rests upon three key factors. Factor number one, the 18 to 34-year-old consumer forms a relationship with brands as young adults, and they remain loyal well into their peak earning years. Factor number two, once the youthful consumer reaches their peak earning years, they will serve as influential brand ambassadors for friends and their expected growing families. And the third factor is the belief that once consumers reach their 50s and older, they are no longer needed to keep profits rolling in. The viability of this strategy, however, is outdated, for it bears little resemblance to the modern-day consumer market.
As much as the media would like to convince us that the 50-plus consumer is going quietly into the night, the numbers definitely do not support that.
If these numbers tell us anything, it is the unmistakable truth that ignoring 50-plus consumers in today's world doesn't work. But there was a time when it did. In part 4 of this series on the invisible customer with all the money, Joanie Marx will share with you how the media and their advertising partners are stuck in a time capsule, relying on an outdated consumer strategy that worked during the golden age of consumerism. Companies today are not only losing customers, they are also losing market share. How can Joanie Marx improve your brand loyalty with the 50-plus consumer? As a brand story advisor to the 50-plus market, as your brand spokeswoman to the 50-plus market, online workshop for your team on the 50-plus consumer, and a project that includes all three of these options. To arrange a complimentary consultation or book Joanie for an engaging interview on your podcast, email her today at joanie@joaniemarx.com.
Thank you for joining me for this episode. And in the meantime, if you'd like to know more about the invisible customer with all the money, please visit my LinkedIn profile to access a 6-part article series that I published in 2021. And the link for that is in the description of this video. And until we meet for the next episode of The Invisible Customer with All the Money, I want you to remember every morning to look into your mirror, smile at yourself, and say, I am my own best friend, for I came into this world to be myself. For that I came. Thank you and all my best.